Hey, Crown Content Publications followers, viewers, supporters, and listeners. Thank you for clicking on our video again today to see what it is we have to say. We will be interviewing poet, professional writer, jack of all trades, Miss Latoya Washington, another beautiful woman in 2022 that's been serving her community and abroad with her special skills and talents as a writer as well. So y'all know I had to get her on the show. Our mission is to support the mission. I'm sorry. Our mission is to support the power of business networking in 2022. Maybe something that she can share with us today might help you as a writer, or maybe you can contact her for advice or tips in the near future. But that's what it's about. Just keeping the power of business networking alive, keeping a hub growing for authors and writers. Because like I was just telling Miss Washington, I don't feel like self-published writers get the recognition or the just marketing that they deserve just because they're not dealing with big publishing houses in 2022. That's not fair, but Crown Content Publications is here to change that. Miss Washington, thank you for being a guest on my show today. How are you doing this beautiful Wednesday?
I am good, and thank you, Whitney, for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity. I'm grateful to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I want to first start off this interview by asking, where are you from and what hometown values do you hold dear to you to this day?
Oh, I am born and raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My mother's side of the family is from Port St. Joe, Florida, but I was born up north. It's a lot of cold. I don't like the cold months. But the values that I still hold on to is, of course, definitely loyalty. I'm big with my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I hold on to that. I usually tell people maybe, or I'm not sure, I'll get back to you. But I'm big on saying yes. So once I say yes, that's it. You know what I mean? You got me. And also just listening to people. I'm big on, taking the time to hear what people are saying, even beyond the words. Sometimes people's silence speaks volumes as well. So I like to just kind of listen to people, especially if I'm a friend of yours or you just need someone to talk to. Those are two things I really hold on to.
Now, Miss Washington, you used a dangerous word there. I didn't expect you to respond that. When I ask about hometown values, people give me all type of answers, but you said the word loyalty in 2022.
Hmm. Hmm.
What tip of advice or why is loyalty important to you? Or why do you think anybody could grow in that area of their lives? Like if you're not loyal even to yourself, it's going to be
Hmm.
hard to be loyal to others, especially as entrepreneurs and freelancers. What would you say to that?
Oh, I would say loyalty is important. I mean, we live in a society, in my opinion, where it's easy for us to break things. It's easy for us to walk away from things. So when we have those challenges, we think, okay, that's it. But, I've learned through those mistakes myself. I ain't going to say everything, I stuck to it, but I've learned as I've grown older, now that I'm 40 years old, it's like I'm sitting here like if I said yes to this, I'm gonna commit to this and stick to this. But also now what's shifted in my loyalty is I want to be more loyal to God than man, because I had a tendency to be a little bit more loyal to man than God. And so now that that has shifted, it's caused me to watch my words, to be patient with things, and especially with business decisions and things like that me and my husband make. Just because it looks good, don't rush into it, because once you sign your name on that contract, that's it, especially if you are being loyal and being committed to that. So I think loyalty is crucial in our relationships, professional, personal, and in our spiritual walk as well. Loyalty is very
So
important.
also not being loyal to the wrong things.
The
With your
wrong
with your
thing.
experience with life, y'all listen to somebody that's had some experience and she told us she's made some mistakes. Young people and even our elders. I just did a segment the other day titled non-correction in the new generation. I feel like nobody wants to be corrected anymore.
Hmm.
You're probably like, what does that have to do with loyalty? Well, somebody loyal to you and that truly loves you has
Hmm.
no problem correcting you.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
can
and I
you grow or learn if you don't know that you're even making mistakes? you won't even take the time to let somebody tell you, hey, I'm trying to correct you right here.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? You hit it right on the nail. You said, I'm trying to correct you to show you the right way. And I think many of us are just so used to abuse that we don't know the difference between correction and abuse. With correction, there is love behind that. As Whitney just said, I'm correcting you because, hey, you're going to go down this wrong path. Don't touch that hot stove. Be careful with this little, ditch in the road, and you might fall in. There's a reason behind that correction, and I think we're confusing it. And the people are a little fearful of it, but there's nothing wrong with correction. The Lord corrects us all the time because he loves us, and he, puts people in our life to correct us. But I think there's been some lines that have been blurred that has made it difficult for this generation to be corrected. And also, too, quickly, I'll say this. I think it's because my generation too, I'm an 80s baby. So we've experienced so much discipline, right? That
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I don't want my kids or I don't want this next generation to experience what I experienced. So we laxed a little bit, we enabled a little bit, in
Mhm.
my opinion. But it's important for us, just like you said, to correct them, to show them this is why I disciplined you. You know what I mean? And prayerfully we can work on that. Help us with this next generation coming
Would you
behind us.
agree that some people take correction as offense instead of love? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And a
Because
lot of
yeah.
us have dealt with more toxicity than we had to, or more unfortunate events in our lives than we had to, because we
hmm
weren't mature enough. We weren't at a place yet where we could recognize somebody was trying to actually sometimes even
yeah.
if we don't know a person, we like, why are you talking to me? You don't know, or why is she trying to tell me
Yeah.
something? And I'm just trying
hmm
to help my fellow brothers and sisters. Even being a
yeah.
millennial, I see it too much. And then I'm a parent too. Sometimes I had to explain to my own children, like, I correct you because I love you. I think you can agree, Miss Washington.
Oh
God
yeah.
said something like, I chastise those that I love.
Yeah. I chasing those I
I
love, but
didn't
he does.
understand that just 5, 10 years
Yes,
ago.
ma'am. Come on. Me neither. Me neither. I didn't get it either.
Mhm.
So I mean, and that's a beautiful thing. And to I'm big on communication as well, having those conversations, like, this is why mama did this is why daddy did this. And also to know that as we grow and mature, that's the aim, to mature in the things of God, to not still just be on milk and be babies and whatnot. We want to grow, so we look at things differently. So like you said, with a correction, if my heart is still holding on to the wounds of my childhood and it was abusive, little things that Whitney says to me will come at me as offense, because my heart is still wounded. My soul's still wounded. So I'm hearing with ears that are offended, instead of opening my ears to see that Whitney really cares about Latoya, and she doesn't want her to hurt. She doesn't want her to go down the wrong path that Whitney may have went down. So it really takes growth and maturity to learn that offense is not, that correction is not, to be offensive.
If you're new to my channel, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe, because weekly we'll be having interviews with authors, writers, and entrepreneurs in 2022. Our mission is to keep the power of business networking alive. And we talk to people like Miss Washington because they have more experience in life, not just as writers, but as entrepreneurs, as humans on this earth. And we like to get the inside scoops of what it took for them to stay strong. I'm talking about years before the pandemic, what it took for them. What led you, Miss Washington, to the path of becoming a writer?
Oh, it's always, I'll say, as a young kid, I would always write little short stories. So in elementary, I would write short stories, and my influence would be like Guiding Light and Mary, all my children, these little, these soap operas and stuff that I would see because our grandparents was watching them. So they were kind of like my motivation a little bit. But I also would write my feelings down. If I saw that my friends were going through something, I would send them like a little note, a little type up something or write up something. And I still do that. I send my husband things. I still write on paper, my thoughts. Some people, they call it journaling or whatnot, but I've been doing that for quite some time. I got notebooks everywhere. So I've been writing for a long time. It's just, I didn't realize it was a gift. I just thought it was just something I would do. But now I know that God has used me to write, and it's just continuing to increase as I draw closer to Him.
Now, poetry is another one of those genres of writing that I feel like just does not get enough attention or respect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What tip of advice would you have to a listener that may be a secret poet? They just find themselves writing, even if it's lyrics or, because lyrics in songwriting, in case you guys didn't know out there, is also a form of poetic release. What tip of advice would you have to somebody who loves poetry but may not be at the level of publishing yet? What tip of advice would you have for them?
Oh, I would say over the past, ever since this book was released, I have met so many different poets. And I learned that poetry doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be a certain way. Like, it's according to the gift that's in you. So I know that there's so many other poets that we know, in the mainstream. Like, one of my favorites is Jill Scott. Jill Scott's an amazing poet, and songwriter as well, and Maya Angelou. And we know these are the famous celebrities in that genre, but there are people next door that have the gift of writing, and I can see it, and it's needed, but it's like, well, I don't know many people, or not everyone knows me, so they kind of hide it a little bit. And so I encourage you listening, or those that are going to tune in later, like, just be yourself. Like, if you feel that writing, and you can't even put the pen down, that's necessary for somebody. And whatever it is, that passion that's written down on paper, the emotions that's written in that poem, it's for someone like me to look at it and say, wow, I can feel the emotion, the passion, the love behind these words. And so I would definitely say, step out. Step out. Don't let it stop you, because you may not think all the poems, the words go together. Not every poem has to rhyme. You know what I mean? But I think it's important to just allow the freedom in what God is giving you as a gift.
If you are not familiar with who Miss Latoya Washington is, I'm about to give her a second to shout out her most recent publication and poetry anthology in 2022, and where you can locate that if you're looking for some inspiration of what poetry and free-flowing poetry might look like, and what it could look like for you if you were to self-publish it. What is the name of that poetry book, and where can we find it in 2022?
Oh, you know what? And I got it right here. I'm gonna put it up, but it is called "Broken Vessels: Letters to Abba." And I don't know if you can see the
Show
little
us that
pot right.
cover, girl. That is beautiful.
Hold on, wait. Yes, this is the cover.
Broken vessel.
Yep, and and as you can see, well, on the cover of the book, the pot is kind of cracked a little bit, because I'm a little cracked a little bit with the issues that I've been through in life. And yet now those cracks are, love is coming out, patience is coming out, joy is coming out, instead of the wounds, and instead of the offenses and the hurt and the pain. So that's why it's a cracked pot on the top of the cover. But you can purchase that on RhemaCreations.com. And Rhema Creations is with a Z at the end, not a S. It's RhemaCreationz. We are also on Amazon. God has blessed us to be able to turn this book into a course. So for those who purchase the book, you can also sign up. We're going to be revamping some things. And for those to be able to come and do the course, and you can see where it all starts, which is the heart. And I talk about the heart for 7 weeks and go deep into the heart issues.
Now, guys, I'm sharing in the chat her website, RhemaCreations.com with a Z, RHEMA. Am I correct there?
Yes. Yes.
Creations with a Z.com. This is where you can find not only this poetry novel she has already released, but probably future publications. Is that correct? from Miss
Yes.
Latoya Washington. And you can also locate her poetry collection on Amazon Kindle. Let me remind you guys that if you subscribe to Amazon Kindle, you can also access unlimited reads monthly and check out other authors just like Miss Latoya Washington. But now I want to give you the floor because when it comes to poetry, and lots of people have come out and said the same thing. Poets have they come from a whole different place. Now, you're still an author, you're still a writer,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like poetry allows people to express themselves in ways that we would never think. Let's think about you name Maya Angelou and a few, but I think about Langston Hughes and others that were able to kind of give us a vision of what it was to be them, grow up in the South, be black, whatever, it could be something else for somebody else. But how does poetry help you release, Miss Washington?
Oh, because I lay all my emotions, frustrations, anger, irritation, misunderstandings, rejection on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I just pour it out, instead of holding it in, because I had the tendency to hold things in and just have this cheerful disposition. But then now it's like I'm writing it down, I'm talking it through, and having those conversations, being honest with myself, being honest more with those around me that I love, and my acquaintances and colleagues and whatnot. So writing it on paper helps me to get those feelings out. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So that I don't just bam, hold it all in and then it burst. So I like to be able to write it down and whatnot. So I mean, poetry um, allows me to do that.
I think what you're saying in so many words is that even if we don't publish our poetry, it can be very therapeutic for anybody.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. To get it out, because
Mhm.
many of us are holding it in, and and it turns into anger. It turns into illness. I do know that when we hold in those things, our body takes that on and it gets affected. And so when we release it, we're letting that go. We're letting it go. And I always start what I'm writing. I always say, "Dear God," because I'm writing to God my thoughts and writing, or I'll say,
Instead of
Abba.
dear diary, instead of
Yep,
dear
I say
diary.
dear God. Yep, I say Father, or I say
Mhm.
Abba, or I say dear God, because it's like, okay, I know you already know my thoughts, but I need to get this out, right? And then when he comes back and he responds to me through whoever or however, I know, thank you for answering my prayers, answering my thoughts through that pen and paper.
Mhm. I want to ask you this. It's a fun question.
Yeah.
Now, some writers, they don't vision their book covers to the end or till they've actually produced a manuscript or gotten it. How do you do it? Do you vision a book cover first? Because can you show us that book cover again? It's beautiful. It's
Yes.
very thoughtful.
Yes, well, actually, this book cover was created by my publisher. She is a self-publishing company in this area, Gospel for You Publishing in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And I just told her that I just see this broken vessel, and I'm a visionary, so I just see it, but I'm not an artist in the sense of drawing it. So it's just like I kept seeing this pot, and I just kept seeing these words coming out and the fruit of the spirit coming out, and I was just like, that's what I want, and that's exactly what they captured. So I appreciated that, because it's kind of hard not being able to draw, but I have this big vision in front of me. So I'm just grateful for Gospel for You Publishing, to be able to capture that.
I'm kind of like you, Miss Washington. I can vision things. I have visioned some of the craziest visions actually, but I'm not an artist. Not in that way. I'm more of a
Yeah.
writer. So I don't think they understand when we as authors and writers and poets, when we look at something and we say that's the book cover, that's it
Yeah.
right there, or that's as close to my vision as it can get. It's one of the best feelings a writer can feel.
Right. Right.
But you can give us a sneak peek, at least, Miss Washington, of what this next cover might. Will it be just as deep, just as visual, just as powerful? This next book that you might be having released soon.
Oh yeah, you know, I'm picturing a I'm picturing concrete, but life coming out of it.
Mm,
which
mm, mm.
so that's what I'm picturing. But I just haven't, gotten there just yet.
I
So,
heard that it's very rare for a plant to grow from concrete, but it has happened.
but it has
Or that
happened.
a plant, it's rare for it to grow at a dump field. Somewhere
Right.
trash is dumped every day. So I'm
Right.
not gonna give too much, but is that the direction you're going with this next book? Will it be a poetry book?
Oh no, this book is going to be the meat and potatoes of all 10 years of this, because this is 10 years of writings. So even the poems were just kind of like metaphors and, parable expressions and whatnot of what I was going through. But with this next book, it's going to be it's going to be the meat and bones. Probably people's mouths going to be open, because it's going to show the real raw Latoya with her and God. Like, this is a real talk, a real talk
You brought
moment.
God into this podcast, so I thought I would go to the Bible real quick. I saw writers like David. You know I was gonna touch on David, but I didn't read the book of Song of Solomon's for myself as an individual in this life until 2 weeks ago. And it blew me away. And for
Yeah.
those that don't know, even if you're not a Bible lover yet, I'm gonna say yet, because how could you read the things that we read and not see the
Mhm.
metaphors, not see the similes, not see the gifts of these writers in these books?
Yeah.
But Solomon, I know I read a little bit about his story in other books and even in history that he was a great king and everything, but he writes about like he's writing about a woman and a man relationship, but I think somewhere in the book is saying that he's writing about how God make him feel. And how is that powerful to me? He was a man. He was a
Mhm.
man the whole
Mhm.
time trying
Mhm.
to express his feelings of
Yeah.
love from God for Israel. Am I
Yeah.
am I on it a little bit?
No, no, no. It's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. And then when you read even Psalms, like how David describes his relationship with God, how he talks to God like as if God is right there. Like, this is what's bothering me,
I
God.
feel like
And
we
then
need more
always
writers.
goes
We need more writers
right,
like that. We definitely
right,
do.
right.
And
That's
I
just
think
like
they're out
straight
here,
up.
but like you said, they're
Yeah.
still in that place where I don't know. And that was gonna
Mhm.
lead to my next question for you, because I think I want to make this a question. Do you believe something like prophetic poetry could be real or could become popular as a genre of literature? Not just
Mhm.
poetry and expressions, but somebody being able to see, I guess, in past tense or future tense and putting it in a form. This is something only poets could talk about now.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
I would
maybe
say,
putting it in a form of, because that's what David and Solomon were doing, if you ask me.
mhm. And I'll say this. I'll say that God gave me quite a few poems that were in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, that were very prophetic. And they're in this book. One of them is called The Watchman, and the other one is called Sheep Herders in here as well. Watchmen and Wake Up. So Wake Up is like literally that that poem was so deep because it was like just flowing at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I had to put it on my phone because literally I didn't have my notepad next to me, nothing, but I woke up and it's just like bam, it was just like word after word after word. And it was all tied to how we have fallen asleep as the body of Christ,
Mm.
and how the shepherds and the leaders have become gluttonous with man's meat and not the meat of God's word. And it was just coming out, and it was a poem. It was a poem, and I was just like, oh wow. It definitely pricked me, you know what I mean? Because you should always examine yourself first, especially when God is showing you things. Okay, God, is this in me? Show me, and search me, Lord. And so when I finished writing it, I just couldn't stop reading it because it just was just going. I just couldn't stop reading it. And
Mhm.
so I've never heard anyone say it's prophetic poetry. I've seen prophetic worship and prophetic arts and people painting, but I've never heard anyone prophetic poetry. But this was definitely God was speaking in those words, because it was just flowing. It was just flowing, flowing, flowing. And I just kept right, putting it in the phone, so I can save it and then type it up and look over it. And then when writing the book, I had to do a few edits, but everything in the poem remained pure to what God was saying.
So the world might call it intuitive,
Hmm.
special, gifted.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do, I'm just bringing it out as Crown Content Publications on this podcast. It's okay to write what comes to you, because you don't know who will come across that script. Uh,
Yeah.
the poets that became big poets that we know today took the time to write what was on their heart,
Mhm,
what was on their
mhm.
mind. And like I said, some of us call it intuition, some of us call it discernment. But writing is a very powerful tool of expression. Now, we both
Yeah.
agree on that. Tell us a little bit more about Rhema Creations and how long you guys have been around.
Oh man, when I tell you, just quickly behind that, God had given the vision to me 12 years ago of just doing a t-shirt, just something simple. I know the young people like t-shirts. I like t-shirts. I'm a Chucks and t-shirt girl. And so, but at the time it just wasn't coming to pass. And that was 12 years ago. You know what I mean? And then me and my husband got together in 2018, and then we started to prepare it, and it was actually officially released. Started Rhema Creations, a Christian apparel line. We do t-shirts that have a message, a biblical message that leads to evangelism, right? Because people start to ask questions. Well, what does that mean? What is that shirt? What is that graphic actually saying? And then that's when the conversation starts, and we start to talk about the Lord, and we start to minister about our lives. Our most recent collection is Walking Testimony. It's the picture of a woman's face, and she's just gracefully smiling, but she's a walking testimony.
Mhm.
She is literally walking through the challenges of life, and then somebody says, "Oh, look at that shirt. That's cute. Where you get that from?" Well, I'm a walking testimony. And so it became a creative way to talk about the Lord, to talk about the goodness of God, because a lot of people don't want to hear it. But I know that through the creatives, because God's creative. I mean, anybody that could just speak to the darkness and bring light is creative,
Mhm.
and he is our creator. So I'm like, God, how do we reach these people? How do we talk to this next generation who is flooded with so many images that depict you as not real or depict you as not being God? And so he's blessed us these past 3 years that we've officially launched in September of 2018. God blessed us to now be the only Christian retailer in the local mall here in York, Pennsylvania. And of course, we know how retail is. You have your good days, your bad days. But the biggest thing is when people come in, they see Jesus. If they want to have a conversation when we're there at the mall, we will have a conversation. We will pray. We will do whatever, because it's bigger than just the money. It's about the souls. And we know that that's our calling, to be out and about in the streets, me and my husband, sharing the goodness of the Lord.
What is the environment? Well, let me not jump ahead. So Rema Creations, you guys are a t-shirt fabrication company? Like we
Yes,
can we
so
can we can place t-shirt orders.
we do have our designs on our website that you posted up there. They can visit and see our designs. We haven't as of yet been our personal like manufacturer of our shirts. We send our designs. I create them, my husband creates them, and
Mhm,
we send them off to the print shop. But every all of it comes with a message.
mhm.
Every shirt. We also sold jewelry. We sold out of our jewelry, but it all had a message on there: Jesus loves you and things like that. But we do events, we do community activities. That's where our portion in the homeless population, working with the homeless in any capacity that we can, giving out food to families. I mean, it's bigger than just t-shirts, and I didn't understand that 12 years ago. You know what I mean? You just see this little piece, but now God continues to add more pieces to that puzzle. So we're just grateful. We're just grateful.
I never seen a time. I know that it was foretold many times that, you know, people, a time would come, a lot of people would walk away from their faith. They would walk away, people that we never thought, the people that once seemed strong, or I just want to
Yeah.
let everybody know I'm a witness. I've seen people turn to everything but God, or a goodness, or a
Yeah.
faith in something greater these days. And as a millennial, I love when people share their faith or
Yeah.
share their stories about how they got
Mm.
through. Now, you see, to me, it's like we're trying to silence those stories, but we got so many odd news stories float. You know, they'll share something crazy about an article on Facebook in a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, this celebrity's doing this. This is happening in this state. There's a baby formula shortage. You know, and some of us, we choose not to pay so much attention to it because, you know, we got to keep our mind out here. We can only take so much. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm trying to minister in my own way. Please don't feed into the media too much. You got some
No.
good people out here that are still with great nonprofits, programs, things you can contribute to or become a part of in
Mhm.
2022. And that's why Crown Content Publication exists, to shed light on these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs out here. Okay. Um, I love that you guys, it says here you incorporate scriptures with modern fashion. How
Yeah.
have how has the community responded to that?
Oh man, the kids love it. We, we have our salvation, our repentant heart salvation collection, which we recently did a family prayer brunch that was on my husband's heart to do, for the men and the women and the schools and the governors, all these different people to come together. And God blessed us to be able to connect with people, different leaders in this area. And the shirt is about repented heart, and it's about us returning to the Lord. Hosea 14 verse 1, to repent. And that's a word that we don't like to hear, because okay, he died for our sins, but we gotta
Nobody likes correction. What did I start
we
off
gotta repent. You gotta repent. I used to drop it like it's hot. I used to get high. I used to get drunk. I used to go out and party. I hung around drug dealers. I hung around. I stole things. I did things. But it's the grace and mercy of God that drew me to repentance. And He's been so good to me that, I mean, how could I not surrender my life? Because it was just too much stuff that He saved me from. And I know that, I don't want to hold up too much time, but he
No, no,
saved
no, no.
me.
You're okay.
He saved me.
I am reading this professional bio summary. I want our listeners to know, when y'all go check out her poetry book, she's writing from a place of experience when it comes to homelessness, rejection, loss, near death. Miss Washington?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was I'll just say quickly, I was 20, I was hemorrhaging, bleeding literally,
Mm,
kind of like the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years, but it was 2 years. I was bleeding every single day for 6 months of those 2 years.
mhm.
I was in my first marriage at the time, so it was a lot going on. There's a lot of stress and strain. And to be honest with you, if you're married to a woman who keeps bleeding, unfortunately, it led to affairs. It led to all kinds of things. Drugs were involved. So much chaos was involved, and my body was stressed out. And the doctor told me at 25 years old that you need to have a hysterectomy or die. But mind you, I never had a child. So someone's taking your wound and you never birthed a child. And I said, something in me was just like, and I know now that it was God, that I had to be confident that no, I'm not going to die. I was 25. I'm 40 years old now. And
Mm.
I'm pausing for dramatic effect, but
Yeah,
it's
we
like
all
I'm
did.
40
We're
years
gonna tune into
old.
this segment later. Let them explain it to us. But So you decided, no, I'm going to have faith. I'm going to make my own decision this time. I'm gonna place my faith in God. Is that what you're telling us?
I sure did. And I was 25. And everything in front of me said that the doctor was correct. I'm
Mhm.
seeing the hemorrhaging. I'm literally my blood. I began becoming anemic because I was losing so much blood. And the doctor said, "Well, you're gonna have to get a hysterectomy." And I just said no. I
Let
said
it out,
no.
Miss Washington, because women, we go through some things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of these things you didn't have to be the most horrible. I'm hearing people with cancer at 25,
Yeah.
heart attacks and strokes at 25, um, losing their lives to things like domestic violence at 25.
Mm-hmm.
So we take stories like these serious on our podcast show. We know it's stories like these who have birthed some of the most beautiful and greatest writers of all time as well. Um, did you end up having children after that scenario?
No, I never had children, sweetie, but I'm not dead.
But you
Glory
know
be to
what?
God.
Sometimes you can be like a motherly spirit to
Oh
somebody who
yeah.
didn't have a mother.
I sure, and you know what? I actually wrote about that in my next book that I'm preparing to finish. And I wrote about that because God has blessed me with more children that I could ever ask for. They're older now, they're in college. And just to know that me and my husband played a small part, that they can come to us and say, thanks, Mr. Dave, or thanks, Miss Toya, or we need this, or what get our advice about something. That means a lot. Especially with our young Black children in college who may be exposed to different things. It's like a culture shock. You go from one environment to now being totally independent, and things are different. So they contact us for conversation and how do I work through this? That means a lot to me. Going to basketball events and soccer events and all these different things, and I haven't birthed them. That's a gift. That's a gift from God, and I treat them as if they're my own. But I'm grateful for that. You're right about that, sis.
There was an angel statue I had for, like, if anybody remember the 90s, I probably can't go to the 80s because I'm a 90s baby. But they used to sell those little statues at like Family Dollar, Dollar Tree.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, where's
yeah.
she going with this? Every Mother's Day, every birthday for the elders in our church, me and my sister, we would go buy those, and they loved them. I don't know if I gave somebody that as a gift today, if they would accept it, but they were all the rave. One of my grandmothers had just a collection of those like porcelain glass angels.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I was 25. It's funny you mentioned 25. I was 25 years old. And I had this one. She was so pretty. She was a little black angel with two wings. And my daughter didn't mean to, but she did something and it fell on the floor. I'm going somewhere with this. And I was
Yeah.
so distraught, like, oh no, my angel. So I picked her up. Do you know my first thing? Because that book is titled Broken Vessel. Keep up with me.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought was to throw it away. It's broken.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, we're looked at as throwaway babies because we didn't have fathers, or because we didn't have the best relationship with our parents or our families, or maybe one of our parents were drug addicts. I bring this type of stuff out on the show because this is the reality of
Yeah.
majority of our lives. And
Yeah.
I don't know, Miss Washington. People don't, unless we write a book about it or it's on Netflix. They like those dramas, but I think people
Mhm.
forget this is some of our realities, or some of the
Oh
things
yeah.
that some of us survive.
Mm-hmm.
So I set the angel back up there because when I slowed down, I said, well, it's not completely broken. I'm gonna tell you what was broken: a piece of her face and a piece of her wing. And something just spoke to me, like, you see that angel right there? That's how some of y'all look. But
Mm-hmm.
she's still usable. She's still beautiful.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking at it. I'm like, this angel is still
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
All you
Yeah.
seeing is residue of where that wing took a little fall. That chip of the face took a little fall, but it was still, regardless of what angle you looked from it, you could tell that it was an angel. So that's
Yeah.
just what came to me when I seen your
Yeah.
book title, Broken Vessel. And I'm definitely gonna go get my copy. I hope you guys are.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
thank
order
you
my
so
copy off
much.
of Amazon. I try to support all the authors that come on the show. That way I can get you guys back on here and interviews you specifically about what I read. So we're gonna get a little deeper. Um, it was a question that I wanted to ask you. What
Yes.
was it like? Because sometimes, people judge you for falling and falling and falling and starting over and starting over and starting over. Women, we get it hard. What was it like to continually overcome obstacles the way you did?
Oh man. Oh, that's a good
I mean,
question.
did you feel like you didn't deserve it? Did you feel like,
Yeah, I felt like this is one of the this is one of the moments with God that I'll share is in my private time. I'll share this because I pray it's an encouragement to someone. Is many times we think because we have obstacles, it's not God sent. So we keep facing these obstacles over and over again, and we give up because we're like, oh well, maybe it ain't meant for me because it's obstacles and it's challenges. But God had to show me, yeah, because your process is a little different than someone else's. So where it was easier for some other people, it's no need for you to get jealous. It's no need for you to feel some type of way because you made it to point B 6 years after others, and you helped others and they made it to point A and you still at point, you still halfway there. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
God had to show me that those challenges does not mean that I'm not with you. And those obstacles that you're dealing with or faced, some of it was your own decisions. And so I'm trying to teach you that you need to deal with that cycle of behavior before you move on to this next place I'm trying to take you. So yeah, it seemed, I mean, I think about the children walking around that mountain for 40 years. They walked around that mountain for 40 years because Egypt had to die in them.
Mm.
Egypt had to be circumcised out of them. Egypt had to be cut from them because you see, they went back to the onions and the leeks and, well, we should go back and this, that, and the third. But all that had to be removed out of them because they were in there for 400 years.
But see,
400
even when it comes
years.
to the history of slavery, I
Mm-hmm.
try to think about this like everybody celebrates, like Juneteenth is coming up.
Yes,
They're
yes,
like,
yes.
they were free. And I'm like, if y'all think for a second, maybe even the first 5 years of these people's freedom was just smooth sailing. These people
Mm-hmm.
had to learn how to live and stand on their own 10 toes again, right? Where am I going to work? What am I going to wear? Where am I going to live? That might
Mm-hmm.
seem off topic, but I think about that a lot. We're
Because their
definitely
mind's not free either. Your mind got to be transformed.
okay.
Yeah, your mind has to be
So you
transformed.
saying you can't live in a place of bondage that long and not have anything you might have went through. It might be some residue that you have to
Oh yeah, oh
work
yeah.
through.
Oh yeah, and God had, and that's why some of the things I kept, those obstacles, I kept going through some of them because there was still some things in there left. And God's like, that got to come out. That got to come out. The pride, the little self-sufficiency in these things. If you're going to be totally dependent on me, how can you be self-sufficient? That means you are relying on your ability. So yeah, I finished college, have a master's degree, have a bachelor's degree, but that is only for here in the kingdom of God. What's a bachelor's degree in the kingdom of God? What's a master's degree? So he's showing me you were self-sufficient in this area. So you keep going around in a cycle, and this behavior is damaging you for what I really want to do with you. Right. So I had to go through these things, and he had to teach me it's not because I'm not with you that you're going through these challenges, because we assume blessings means God's with us. When if we be very careful, that's deception as well. Because just because you're blessed don't mean God's with you.
Mm, mm,
Just
mm.
because you got millions and millions of dollars don't mean God's with you. And it don't mean that he's not with you if you do. But if your foundation is not God, if your foundation is not sure on the rock, then what does it all mean? You can be blessed and still be tormented, be miserable because you're far from God. And you can only have bread and peanut butter making cheese sandwiches, but you are walking in the mighty power of God. So it's just, it's those lessons that God's trying to teach us that line up with his word that's important for us to learn the lesson in everything. Learn the lesson in everything. What is God trying to show you? Because it's
Now
all going to work for your good.
you said this next book was going to be special, but I feel fire already because I mean, is this some of what we can expect? These perceptions,
Oh,
these insights. You said a deeper insight of the challenges you went through and how God brought you out of them.
oh yeah,
I
it's
feel
going
like
to get real
women,
deep.
we can definitely use these stories. Uh, when is the soonest or the latest we can expect this publication on Amazon soon?
Oh, honey, I'm still. You listen. I got to get on myself about making sure that I finish these chapters. I just started a new chapter, and it's so deep. It ties into not being able to have children, called a barren poor. And it seems like, how can you pour from a barren place? But he's the God that I serve that can pour in the dry place. He can make a way in the wilderness. He can put a river in the middle of a desert. That's the God that I serve. So I was pouring from a place that was barren and it was blessing other people. And so I wrote about that. I wrote about how is it that I'm pouring from this place that I don't have?
No, look, I can't sit on this no more. I thought you said the word whoring because that's deep too. When you look at it
Mhm.
from a spiritual
Yeah.
aspect, whoring from a barren place. That's the Arthur and me too. Maybe I'll write a poem on it.
Yeah, you write a poem on
Because
it,
how can
but
you
pouring. Yeah,
and maybe
pouring.
that's a route some women do go because of what they're feeling. They feel like, well, I'm barren. I can't have kids, so I'm a whore.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's pouring. It's pouring. And sometimes, that whoring, we gonna if one day if they take the course with the book, they'll learn many times we really want love and affection. And so we think having sex with that man, knowing he ain't no good, or knowing that he's with another woman, knowing that he's married, it gives us some form of connection. And really, you need to be connected to the Father because you're just missing the Father's love. So you're going to keep searching for all of this love that you long for in something that's only temporal. And I've been there, honey. I've been there. I've been there. I've been the man, the side piece. I was what they call it, the side chick. I've been the side chick. I've been all of that.
Mhm.
I've been with somebody who loved and wanted to be with, and he's giving me money and jewelry, and all of a sudden wake up and find out he's married. And what's so crazy is the Lord showed me what was going on. So even in my mess, God was still talking to me.
Mhm.
So that's why I can't even sit there and not tell others and not share with others that God is real. Like, listen, God, I'm in the middle of the bed
They
with a
do say
married
you got to
man.
be careful with a spiritually gifted person lying to them
Listen,
because
you
we
can't.
don't see it anyway. We're gonna
We
see
gonna
it
see
in
it
a dream,
anyway.
a vision.
Just keep it real. Just keep it
Hmm.
real.
Hmm.
But this book I'm working on, and it thank you for saying that because it's encouraging me to keep writing it and not give up on it, because you do kind of second guess yourself. Was people going to really receive this book? Because this is really meat and potatoes of my life. But that's an encouragement, sis, to keep writing this second book because it's deep. It's
Hmm.
real deep. It's real
So you
deep.
felt like you could hear these powerful men because they say sometimes you can have like a demon right here and an angel on this side of your shoulder. And at the end of the day, you got to choose which voice you're going to listen to. So I hear you
Yeah.
speaking like, hey, I would hear this good voice. But see, sometimes it's that bad voice that leads us to the actions we're committing in the first. And we know it ain't right. We knew we had
Yeah.
a choice to begin with. Don't think this is just cliche talking. Actually, we can save a lot of young people from going through. They'd be like, look at her talking like an elder. Now I'm only 30, but I'm about there.
Yeah,
it's some young women younger than me, and they having
yeah.
babies early.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to get too religious and traditional, but why not
No,
have
you
a
know
baby
you're
with a man
good.
that loves you, that's gonna be there for you and that baby the next 18 years? You know what I mean? That can lead you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's still some good men out here.
It is still some
We
good
probably
men.
will have a part two to this
Yeah,
because we
we
can
got to
talk
do a part two
as
because
as women. There's just these topics that
Mhm.
we need to bring out in 2022. They want to focus more on, oh, they trying to take abortion laws from us. They hurt my heart again. Like, why y'all want abortion anyway?
Yeah, because they,
Why are you
we
committing the act that where you would need an abortion?
listen. I'm gonna tell you. Sometimes I used to think, God, how you gonna use me? I'm too honest. I was out here in these streets. I mean, I grew up in church, but I still, the streets kind of embraced me more because I always kind of felt like an outcast, like I was just so different. But the streets really taught me like you can't be fake and phony out here. You gotta be real with these people.
So you
You
saying the
know,
street showed you that first?
Nah, y'all, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, because I mean, my mother, she had me young. She had me when she was 16, and so my grandmother was in a church. She was a elder in this area. She traveled everywhere. So I think I was a little oblivious to some of the real hardcore street type of mentality. I know every hood is different, but hood's still hood. And I learned how some people can be real slimy, real grimy about that
I
money
heard
or
it could get like that on. You're not talking about the
yeah.
East Coast, are you?
No, it can get real crazy. And I haven't even been on the West Coast or whatever, but I'm just saying I've seen some real grimy things happen. And I'm like, listen, now that I'm saved and sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit, I'm like, I can't pretend with you, baby. That man ain't no good. That woman ain't no good, brother. I'll tell a brother in a heartbeat,
We still
she ain't
need
no
that
good.
what correction.
She
We
she
need
ain't she
somebody
ain't no
that's
good.
able to see it and call it out. Don't fear being that,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes it's not always gonna be to your kin folks and friends. You don't have to know somebody. You see, hey baby, that's don't post that
Yeah.
on your page. And I just say
Yeah.
they don't like
Uh-huh.
correction.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And don't
It's like,
show
you
everything.
can't tell me what to comment
No.
or put on my page. That's the
Yeah.
generation we live in.
Yeah, and I wish I could tell these babies and young adults like, look, don't share everything on social media. Keep some of your stuff private. Be mindful. You know what I mean? Don't just rush to say something. Take your time. Let it be concrete first before you go rushing to share that you're doing this, that, and the third. That's learning from experience. Because I've been all happy to share something with somebody and I'm giving my secrets to Delilah.
Learn
You know
what
what I mean? And
vacation you on,
listen, and
what mall you at.
you all excited and you want to share this with somebody, but to teach these young people, be mindful, be careful, take your time, don't rush everything, because we live in a society where everything's rushed. But don't rush everything. Don't be so quick to share everything that God gives you, every idea. Take the time and cultivate some of these things, and learn the policies and the procedures behind it. Yeah, that might be a good music deal, but what do you got to do with this music deal? Look at the total percentage. Look at how much you're getting out of the money, how much you're getting out of the book. So if you're only getting a dime from every dollar, that's 10 cents, while the other person's getting 90%. But when they're so focused on the jewelry and the women, all that other stuff blinds them. So really they broke and they look rich. So that's what we're supposed to be able to teach the next generation behind us, that these are the things you watch out for. Pray about it. Talk to somebody. Get you some elders. Get you, look at this. Have this person look at this with you. And that's because of our mistakes. You know what I mean? We made some mistakes. We had
I
people still
understand
like,
now. I was one of the most hard headed. I know I look
oh yeah,
sweet now.
I was hard headed too. I was
They
hard headed
loved
too.
me then, and they love me now. But now
Yeah.
I call Annie, Mama, Granny, them back. You was right. I don't know if they expected I would do that one day or not, but you was right. I know
Yeah, you're
some
right, Grandma.
women don't have children, but imagine having a child, and no matter how much you love them and how much you're trying to tell them, They choosing death. They choosing the wrong way. They choosing the wrong person.
Yeah.
See, I ended
Yeah.
up having 3 daughters, Miss Washington. So
Mm,
I'm trying to get it right now because I'm like,
yeah.
God, I don't want to feel half of what I put them through.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They say good things come in threes. I said, boy, I
Mhm.
had 3 daughters. So I'm just trying to fix that. It's not always about, we also living in a time people want to be sexist and say what the woman should do. She should be able to do. If she can't, she don't deserve to be married. The Proverbs 31 woman, from what I read, it had more to do with cooking and cleaning. I might offend some people saying that. A woman is more than that, sister. We got to do a part 2.
We gotta do a part two.
I have a book called The Shoes She Walked In. And I don't think they're gonna catch on to my title till later because we all wear our own shoe size.
Mm,
And a man gonna wear his shoes and a woman gonna wear hers. But in a new era, some young women found themselves having to put on boots one day and heels the next because she
mm,
was doing it on her own. So I
mhm,
said, I
mm,
wonder will people pick this book up. The shoes she walked in.
mhm, mhm.
Because they're gonna find out some days it was
Oh
steel
yeah.
toe
Oh
boot.
yeah.
But it
Yeah.
didn't mean we were trying to be a man or take a man's place. And
No.
I cannot
No.
wait to get a women's panel. I think you would be great for it. As you finish
Oh
that book,
yeah.
we'll
Cause
just
I'll
come
go
on
there.
here and talk as women.
Oh, honey, I could come on this panel anytime. Don't worry about it. Anytime you contact me, yup, I'll be there. I'll be
Go
there.
ahead
The
and shout out
ladies.
the name of that book again in case our listeners want to check out your skill, your talent as a poet, and what it is you have to say when it comes to overcoming adversity and obstacles.
Yes, please be sure it is Broken Vessels, Letters to Abba. These again are 10 years of writings. It's available on Amazon.com under Broken Vessels, Latoya Washington. Also, you can visit our website if you want to see what we're doing, what we're working on. There's also a 7-week course that goes alongside this book, and it's good, y'all. We're talking about jealousy, fear of failure, fear of success, self-sabotage, all of this tied to this book. So I am grateful, so grateful for you all that will purchase this book or even share what God has put in us to do.
Miss Washington, some of our entrepreneurs have social media accounts, TikToks, IGs that they encourage our listeners to follow them on in 2022. Would you like to share any tags this year? It could be Facebook, anything, LinkedIn. Would you like to share a place they can follow your business or work in 2022?
Sure thing. We are on Twitter. Our Twitter, our LinkedIn, as well as Instagram and Facebook is all Rhema Creations. And I'll spell that for you guys. It's RHEMACREATIONZ. And also, I'm on my personal Facebook account is Latoya Washington. So you can reach me there as well. So visit our website, www.reemacreations.com. We're on Instagram, Rhema Creations. We're pretty much everywhere.
Follow Miss Washington and the Rhema Creations movement in 2022 to support her work. Okay, guys. And she also has ministry motivated fabrication designs available when you visit RhemaCreations.com. This is another platform you can locate her book in 2022. Now I know you didn't get to talk much about your music. So are you more of a lyricist writer or you write actual music? I gotta ask you before we get off the
Oh
show.
no, I don't write sheet music. I don't write sheet music. I read some sheet music, but I
Mhm.
write all lyrics. I write all
Mhm.
lyrics. If you give me a beat, it just comes out. If you just give me a
Have you
beat.
attended any like spoken word events in 2022, or do you plan to maybe in the near future, or have you in the past? And can we expect to see you at more spoken word events? Poetry goes a long way. You got to bring that
Yeah.
talent out.
Yeah, I do. I do. I got to come out of my shell with these things. So I'm working on that definitely.
Because I
And
think they'll play like music sometimes. It's
mm,
called, I don't want to give it the wrong name, but it's a whole form of poetry where the
mhm,
music is playing or
mhm.
instrumental is playing as you do that spoken word. I actually want to
Yeah.
get more experience with it. I think it's so beautiful. I didn't
Yeah.
understand. I used to think spoken word events were boring before I found myself as a poet and
Yeah.
no, I thought it was. I'm telling the truth. I was like, why do people go to those? They be
Oh no, I
snapping.
love them. They
They
be
be
snapping the
snapping
fingers.
with the candle lights and I'm like, why
Yeah.
do people see that as interesting? Some
Yeah,
people
I've
even they
done
have.
some.
You do?
Yeah, I've done some prior before pandemic. We had one, and then we did a virtual poetry slam with modernly ethnic. That's my sister. Reach out to her. She is an amazing poet as well. She's a Christian poet. She has a book called Soaring in Her Sorrows. So that's my sister Patrice. I'll definitely want to shout her out. She's an
Is that
amazing poet.
on Amazon as well? We support
Yes, reach
authors on
out.
this channel.
Yes, please be sure to support her. She is really an amazing poet. Is Patrice Brown. She is on Amazon as well. Soaring in Your Sorrows, an amazing book. Yeah, gotta support my
Pass the
sister.
word. I'd love to have her on the show in 2022
I sure will. I sure
to
will.
promote her work. Hey,
I
y'all
sure
keep
will.
doing what you're doing. Are you in Pennsylvania now, or that's just where you from?
No, we're in Pennsylvania still. We still in Pennsylvania. Yep.
Keep doing what y'all doing out there. The love is definitely extended to you, to
Thank
where
you.
you are from New Mexico. I'm a Texas native, but
Yeah,
you
New
know,
Mexico.
we can feel each other. We can feel each other.
Spiritually.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
need we're gonna need each other in these last times. And
Oh,
that's
we're
what the
gonna need
power
each
of
other.
business networking connections is about. A lot of businesses and entrepreneurs just had small setbacks during the after effects of a pandemic. And our
Right.
mission is just to help us reconnect. There's even
Yeah.
new entrepreneurs out here that weren't
Right.
entrepreneurs before the pandemic. So how else are we gonna know about them? You guys, this won't be our only time. I'm glad y'all got to meet Miss Latoya Washington today, but it won't
Yeah.
be her last time on the Crown
Yeah,
Content
I'll be back.
Podcast show. We're publishing and marketing meet. We definitely want to follow your work, your growth, and everything that you are doing to help spread the love of Christ. Preach correction. I was doing it just on my other on my segment the other night. I said it's not politicians. It's not the pandemic. People didn't like correction before all of this.
Mhm.
And even our leaders, you try to tell them something, they like, no, we ain't got to change nothing. And I'm like, well, how do you expect the masses to feel? How do you expect the children that we're raising? What example are we setting if, we have people scared to correct? That don't mean you're not perfect or you're not a good person. You just need correction. You need guidance. Because I missed that for so long and I know what it
Mhm.
took me through. I
Mhm.
didn't miss it. I just, denied
Yeah.
it. I pushed it to
Yeah.
I didn't see no need for it. So we're definitely going to have more topic discussions. I'll be in touch. And thank you
Oh,
guys
please.
for
Thank you.
tuning in to the Crown Content Publications YouTube channel where publishing and marketing meet. And until next time, thank you for your support. Thank you, Miss Washington.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.